Hi there, I'm Jared, and today we're going to get to see Microsoft Copilot and Copilot for Microsoft 365 in action in real life. So let's take a look at it. I find myself here at my Windows desktop, and first things first, where do all of us begin any day that we're embarking upon? Well, yes, good old Outlook. So inside of here, I can see I have an email thread about this Thunderbolt e-bike project that Tracy and I are working on. And so I can see my fictitious friend Tracy here has had a lot of back and forth, and oh my gosh, does she like to write. So I have the ability to use Copilot, because I have a Copilot license, here inside of Outlook. You'll see this Summary by Copilot option here above any email thread. And so I'm going to click this. Copilot will then look at all of the data across all of these emails, enriched with knowledge of my organization, and then bring forth to me a summary. So I can see a couple of things. Tracy sent the latest version of the project specification document, requested my feedback. I reviewed it, I was impressed, the level of detail and thoroughness, but I suggested adding more specifics about the user interface and user experience design. I also mentioned we need to have a plan to get the certifications going. Tracy agreed and will work with the design team to create the initial concepts and include them in the next version. Tracy also said that there'll be specific certifications and regulatory requirements, and she proposed that we schedule a meeting to discuss the design and interface in more detail. So this in one quick view has shown me all that I really need to know. There was some back and forth. It knows who's who. It knows who I am. So it says you reviewed, you suggested, which I also really like. And then it tells me where did we leave off? Proposed scheduling a meeting. Alrighty, well, let's schedule a meeting. So I'll open up Tracy's most recent email to me, and I'll close the summary here. I can see it in more detail, make sure that Copilot was correct, and I can say, hey, let's set up a meeting. What time is convenient for you? So that's a great question, Tracy. What time is convenient for me? Now, in Outlook, I have a number of ways that I can check my calendar and try to find a good time for us to meet, but I have Copilot. So let's try something different. I've actually pre-staged some of the things that I would like, and I have a prompt here that I'll copy, and I'm going to use Copilot in Teams. You can see I have Copilot pinned here on the side, and I have the immediate access to ask it a question. So I've pre-staged this question, suggest some times next week that I'm free for a 30-minute meeting, provide options in a simple bulleted list. I'm sending this to someone, so don't include the names of my meetings. I can give it this context. I can say I want it bulleted. Don't give me the names of the meetings, and it will take that and adapt the response based on it. So what I'm hoping for here is that I can have a bulleted list showing my availability that I can very easily copy and paste into that email to Tracy so we can coordinate setting up our times. And it looks like it's done exactly that. Here are some available time slots for a 30-minute meeting next week, Monday, April 22nd, between 9 a.m. and 11:30 a.m., and so on. And so this is really useful for me. I'll go ahead and copy that, and then I can go back here into Outlook. So now I'll go ahead and respond to Tracy. So when I come in here, I have the option to draft with Copilot, appreciate the feedback, agree with suggestions, next week works. That's fair. It's giving me suggestions of what I can respond with. So I like this one. Let's go ahead and see what it has to say. So by doing this, it's going to create a draft of that email back to Tracy. Thanks for the update. Appreciate you taking my suggestions. Next week works well. Let me know what day and time. I'm not going to do that. I can change it a little bit, but for now I'll keep it as it is. And then I'll say, next week works well for me. Here's when I'm free. Thanks, Jared. And so now I have a very quick email. Of course, I need to read through it to make sure everything sounds good, and then I can get that sent on off to Tracy. So with this, I'm able to very quickly summarize a long email thread, find the times I'm free, send that back, and even get some help drafting the email. It is important to remember to human vet anything that you are sending off as your own, whether that's a Teams message, an email, a document that you're creating. Always really important. Okay, now that that's done, Let's imagine that some time has passed, and I'm going to now jump over to Microsoft Teams. I will find the meeting in question here, make that nice and big. Wonderful. So the meeting has already happened. And now I have the ability to come in here and view the recap. There is a lot of powerful capabilities that we get with Copilot inside of Microsoft Teams, and specifically inside of our Teams meetings. The things I'm about to show you I could have asked during the meeting, but I could also continue to interact with my meeting via Copilot after it has already ended. All of this requires me to record the meeting, so getting in the habit of recording our meetings is going to be really useful because that's the only way that Copilot can interact with it and provide these insights I'm about to show you. So this is the recap area of the meeting that I had with Tracy. And I can see a lot of information from here. Most of it comes with the Teams Premium license. However, I want to draw your attention to this button, Copilot, up here in the top corner. When I slide this in, I can have a full conversation with Copilot about this meeting, after it happened and even while it's happening. So now that this is done, in addition to seeing all the useful stuff on the recap, like how long Tracy talked, how long I talked, the different mentions, how many times Tracy referred to me, and also reading the actual transcript of the meeting, which was a fun exercise in me talking to myself, I will tell you. In addition to having all of this useful information, I can also see Copilot here on the side, and I can ask it things. So prior to this, I asked it a couple of questions related to the meeting. Let's take a look. So I asked it to recap the meeting. So it says, well, with the design and interface for the project, certifications and regulatory standards were discussed, timeline and budget. I can even see position and branding strategy for it. And you see these little icons here. If I hover over them, it will actually reference the original transcript of the meeting and show my actual words so I can back up what Copilot is saying. I can follow up and say, well, what are my action items specifically? Jared, based on the transcript, your action items are reach out to the marketing team, start discussing the positioning and branding strategy for the Thunderbolt, and other things. Okay, great. And so I asked it in a list. It can do that too. Then I took this a step further. I said, how does Tracy feel about the project? And what I like about this is that Copilot wasn't going to just assume how Tracy felt, because she could have been saying just all the right words, but it still helped me. Take a look. I'm sorry, but I cannot answer that question with confidence. I can't speculate or infer anything about Tracy's feelings. However, I can tell you that she expressed enthusiasm, passion, and confidence throughout the meeting, and then it gave me examples. Tracy said, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm thinking a lot about how we can enhance user experience. I'm confident that with our talented team, we can deliver exceptional products. I'm incredibly passionate about the Thunderbolt. These are some statements that indicate Tracy's positive attitude and engagement, but they're not definitive indicators of Tracy's feelings. I like that. I like that the AI is really thinking through its responses. We saw when ChatGPT first came onto the scene, it wasn't always the best at reading in some of that nuanced content. So this is nice to see that it still helped me. It still showed me things that indicate Tracy's feelings, but properly qualified it. I continued and I said, hey, can you coach me on my communication style in this past meeting? And it did that. So it said, you communicated clearly and confidently about the design, you asked relevant and open-ended questions, you demonstrated a collaborative and flexible approach to the project. So that's all really nice and positive and very validating to hear. So then I asked, how could I have improved? Okay, Copilot says, well, you could have provided more specific actionable feedback to Tracy. You could have improved by clarifying the scope and priorities of the project. You discussed many potential features, but you did not clearly define which ones are essential. Okay, that's valid. You could have improved by setting clear deadlines. You agreed on a timeline, but you did not specify when the final design and interface document should be completed. You didn't assign any action items or responsibilities to yourself or other team members. It was all on Tracy. Well, in my defense, Tracy doesn't exist, but in a real meeting, that would have been really useful to know if the person has the wherewithal to ask the question. So I really appreciate that insight and guidance that I can get, and I can come in here and talk with any of my past meetings. As long as they were recorded, I can see them here. So Copilot told me that one of my action items is I need to reach out to the marketing team. So I want Copilot's help to do that. Now, there are different ways that I can view Copilot for Microsoft 365. And so naturally, if I'm drafting an email, I might think, okay, let's go to Outlook. But the drafting capability in Outlook can't reference a file. And I want to use Copilot for Microsoft 365 so that it has a little bit more context for the marketing team as I send and draft this email. So I'm going to use Copilot for Microsoft 365 in Microsoft Teams. My own personal opinion, I feel that is the most feature-rich and highly capable version of Copilot for Microsoft 365 that you can use. So let me jump right on over here in Teams. I'm going to click this Copilot button, which if you don't see that, you can hit the ... here, and then you can search for Copilot. And then once you click that, you can then pin it to the side here. So here was my question I asked it earlier about when I could meet. It's always a good practice to start a new chat when you're changing topics. So I'll hit New Chat here at the top. It's giving me some suggestions of things that I can ask its help with. But more specifically, I'm going to click down here and I'm going to say, draft an email to the marketing team, kicking off the marketing efforts for the Thunderbolt e-bike. Reference, if I knew how to spell reference correctly, and I'm putting a slash. Okay, now once I hit slash, it has the ability to start searching everything. People, files, meetings, and more. I go over here to files, here's even more things that I've done. So I'm gonna start with, well, let's reference the /thunder. Okay, and there's my Thunderbolt specifications. I could also reference that email thread back and forth between Tracy and I. Let's reference that document. I'm going to say reference that for context. Suggest that we have a whiteboarding session to kick things off. Okay, great. I'm going to hit enter. Now Copilot's going to do a couple of things here. It's going to go look at that document, familiarize itself with what on earth I'm talking about, which is really useful. Then it's going to know what it knows about me and the marketing team and start drafting an email to the marketing team for me. And I see that it has just done that, so take a look. You can even see it's finishing as we go. It even suggests a subject. And so, dear marketing team, I hope this message finds you well. I'm excited to announce the commencement of our marketing efforts for the Relic Cloud e-bike. As we gear up to introduce this, I would like to draw your attention to this document, which will serve as the foundational document for our campaign. Okay, this is a little not how I would talk, and that's part of the beautiful thing about an AI like this, is I can talk to it like I would a person. I'm going to give it a little bit more clarity on what I'm looking to get. This is a bit too formal. Make it more casual and exciting. I'll use an exclamation mark. Great. So now it's going to take that email that it wrote, analyze it a little bit further, and redo all of the words. Take a look. Hey team, I'm thrilled to share that it's time to shift gears and start pedaling hard towards our Thunderbolt e-bike marketing campaign. We've got a game changer on our hands with the Thunderbolt e-bike, and it's all detailed in this document. It isn't about just getting from A to B, it's about the ride, the rush, and the eco-friendly vibe that comes with it. It's sleek, it's fast, it's going to take the market by storm. I think we should kick things off with a whiteboarding session. Catch you soon, and then even put my name and title, which I think is great, a much better email. So I'm going to copy that, and now I'll switch back over here, new email, and then I can paste this in here. Align the formatting a little bit. Catch you soon. And I don't need my name again since I have my email signature in there. Perfect. So just like that, I have an email to the marketing team, ready to go as soon as I have a valid email address to actually send it to. So that's just one example of how Copilot can help me out. Now let's fast forward again. Let's say the marketing team, they had that email, they received it, they set up the meeting, and now we're having a whiteboarding session. In Microsoft Whiteboard, this is beautiful, especially with a device that has pen and touch, like a Surface device, so I can reach in there, ink, and annotate, and much more. But you can have a fully feature-rich experience with Whiteboard, even just using a mouse and keyboard. There's also Copilot in Whiteboard, and that could help as a jumping off point for how we can brainstorm. Let's take a look. Inside of here, I have this nice shiny Copilot button right towards the bottom. So I'll click this, and I'll have it suggest some ideas. Suggest how we can begin the marketing campaign for a new e-bike in the USA. We're looking to create a rich and full-featured marketing plan. All right. Generate suggestions. So now it's going to know what it knows about bikes and marketing campaigns, and it's come up with some suggestions. I love it. Give me even more. I want more than just 6. So I can click this button. Now there's 12 ideas. More! I'm just going to get a good, there's 18 different ideas. Perfect. Insert them all. Boom. Well, I have a whole bunch of ideas to jump off from. Create a referral program, financing options, influencer partnerships, an Instagram photo contest. So this is good, but it would be better if it was a tad more organized. This is just a whole bunch of sticky notes all at once. So I'll hit the Copilot button again, and now I'll select Categorize Notes in a View. Are these the notes you're referring to? Asks Whiteboard. Yes. So I'll hit Categorize. It's going to analyze what's on each of them, whoosh, and then move them around. I can also, if I'm not satisfied with what I see, I can have it regenerate those categories one more time. There we go, that's a bit better. Outreach, promotions, partners, and audience. All right, I'll keep it. So now it's color-coded them, it's sorted them, it's a lot easier for me to read and understand. Of course, marketing has a lot to do with outreach. We have a whole bunch of promotions going on, partner with local bike shops, collaborate with cycling clubs, and then, really core, identify the target audience and the personas for this bike. Love it. Now let's say that we had a rousing time going back and forth, creating a whole bunch of different ideas. Every person who creates a new sticky note or adds something to the whiteboard, Copilot will know who contributed what. So when I go back to my Copilot button here at the bottom, I can select Summarize the Content. So now it's going to analyze the whole whiteboard, and it will give me a summary of what we did in this whiteboarding session. There were 18 ideas generated. The team ideated a PR launch campaign to do these various things. The team mapped out hosting demos and considered offering discounts and promotions and much more, generated by Copilot from this. And it's created a loop component here that I can then copy wherever I want. So if I wanted to send an email to Tracy to let her know how all of this is going, I'll do that now. I can say, met with marketing, great talk. Here's the AI-generated notes from Whiteboard. And so, just like that, I can have that as a link to the loop component, or I can even make it an embedded loop component. And what I like about this is as I make changes to it, let's say, you know what, I don't want her to know that it was me alone. So I'll just go ahead and delete this participant part from the top. And then when I go back into Whiteboard, notice there's my cursor and the name was deleted from the top. That's the beautiful thing about loop components. They're kept just nice and consistently up to date. So I can keep those notes. As I send this off to Tracy, there's the notes from my whiteboarding session. Perfect. And I can get that sent off to her. And as I keep making these changes, my summary from Copilot of this email thread will continue to change and continue to update as I go to keep everything in check. You'll notice down here, you suggested a meeting and provided your availability for the following week. You also mentioned meeting with marketing and provided AI-generated notes from the whiteboard. So it's being consistently up to date and kept in the know. Now let's say, my whiteboard is coming along, but it would be really great if I had the competitors in there. There's a lot of different e-bikes out there, and so I want to find what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses. Help me out, Copilot. So I could use Copilot for Microsoft 365 in Teams, like I did before. But on an AI PC, I have the option to press the Copilot key on the keyboard to summon Copilot in Windows. Once that slides in, I have two options here at the top. I have Work and I have Web. So Web is the faster and more responsive version of Copilot that most people know. It's the evolution of Bing Chat, and it has access to multiple different fast models, and it does not have to go through all of the compliance checks that Copilot for Microsoft 365 does. So you will get faster responses and easier access to the web using the web option. But you will not be able to ask it anything about your work life, anything about your meetings, your emails, or anything at your company. The Work tab, that's what that's for. That's Copilot for Microsoft 365. When you switch to here, now you can ask it questions about your specific organization. I'm in a web mood, so I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to say, please create a table of the 5 most popular e-bikes in the USA. Show the pros and cons of each and their range and price point. Great. This is a heavy research task. Think about how long that might have taken me to create if I was doing it myself. I go look at articles, assess the articles, copy and paste data, create this table, put all of this stuff in it. But here in Copilot, it's able to do that for me. Certainly. Here's a table of the 5 most popular e-bikes in the USA, along with their pros, cons, range, and price points. And so here we go. Aventon, level 2, I have my co-op cycles, Aventon Adventure 2. It's giving me the Rad Power Rad Rover 6 Plus. And it's showing me the references to the websites where it got this information, as well as the range of these different bikes and the price point of each one. And it even has brought up different videos that I can reference to learn this even further. It is showing me its work. Where did it get all of this information? In the brief time that I was just talking to you a moment ago, Copilot looked at all of these websites, all of these sources, gathered all of this information, and put it together into a convenient table. I even have the option to export this table and edit that data in Excel, or I can use the snipping tool in Windows in order to just take a quick snapshot. Let's focus on just these 3. And then once I'm done with Copilot, I can take that learning and paste it here into my whiteboard for all of us to see and compare those differences. So as I've been talking to you live, I already have a pretty robust whiteboard going, a collaboration of one, but you can see how this can be a really good jumping off point to get data at your fingertips really, really simply. The power and the promise of Copilot goes beyond just these brief features that I was able to show you today. There is the ability to interact with Copilot inside of Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. There's Copilot in Loop. There's Copilot for security for customers to protect their organizations. There's Copilot in Dynamics 365 in order to do sales and CRM. And there's a lot of use cases where Copilot can add value there as well. An important thing to keep in mind, though, about Copilot is that some of the features and capabilities that you might be able to think of, Copilot may not be able to do them all yet. Some of the ways that you need to interact with it inside of these different Office products can be a bit nuanced and require more training than I'm able to give you here in this brief session. So stay tuned to Copilot. There are constantly new updates that are being rolled out, new capabilities. This is a huge bet for Microsoft, and we're going to see more and more capabilities, more and more understanding, more and more speed improvements as Copilot continues to evolve. And by having a device that has a neural processing unit and that's an AI PC that's ready for the future, you'll be able to take even more advantage of all of it. But for now, that is a brief introduction to Copilot in Microsoft 365 and how it can help you with some of your day-to-day tasks. I hope it helps you too. If you haven't had the opportunity, give Copilot for Microsoft 365 a try for yourself, and definitely talk about it in your interactions with customers. Until next time, I'm Jared with the Microsoft team. Thanks for joining.